Utoya Massacre. A day that left 77 people dead, most of them being children and teenagers. A day that left people in Norway and the entire world shocked. The 22nd of July 2011 at 3:25 p.m. it all began, when a bomb went off in Oslo, next to a parliament office. This bomb killed 8 people and injured about 200. But little did they know, this was just the beginning. Some even believe that this was a distraction for what was coming next. 5 p.m. on the same day, a man shows up on an island. This island was called Utoya and it hosted a summer camp for teenagers. It was hosted by the Norwegian Labour Party. Around 600 teens were there that day. This man presented himself as a police officer doing a routine check since that bomb had just gone off. 2 instructors met him at the dock and they just wanted to confirm his identity, so they contacted the office on mainland. This is when they started getting suspicious of him and he immediately shot them both. This man was called Anders Breivik, a 32-year-old right-wing extremist, aka not a real police officer. He then made his way to the main camp and rounded up as many of the kids as he could. These kids were under the impression that he was just going to brief them about what had happened in Oslo and just make sure that they were safe on the island. And mind you, he was in a police uniform, like they trusted him. Once Anders had gathered enough kids, he just started firing at all of them. He was trying to kill as many as he possibly could. At all of them. He was trying to kill as many as he possibly could. Some of the kids were able to run and hide and text people letting them know what was going on. It was said that this island was pretty small and that you could walk across it in only 10 minutes. Some kids jumped in the water and tried swimming away, some ran for their lives, some hid, and some of them didn't even have the chance to process it before they were shot. And obviously not all the kids at the camp were at that little meeting, so a lot of them just heard the noises and had no idea what was going on. They knew that something was happening that was bad and that they were shooting, but they had no idea what the context was, who he was. And so he would lure kids out of their hiding spots being like, "Oh, I'm an officer, I'm here to help you." And once they came out, assuming that they were safe, he would shoot them. It's just pure evil. 47 kids managed to barricade themselves in an abandoned cabin. Anders was using an automatic gun, and these kids in the cabin thought that there was multiple shooters because of how much he was shooting. This is nowhere near the end of the story. Stick around for part 2 to see what happened next. Part 2 of the Utoya Massacre. Back to the 47 kids that locked themselves in the cabin. Those poor kids waited in the cabin for 4 hours. Mind you, some of these kids had seen the shooter already, so they knew he was in a police uniform. And so when the actual police showed up, they were petrified. They thought they were gonna die. It must have been terrifying, but also a relief when they realized they were being saved. The whole mass shooting lasted an hour and a half. 69 kids died and 32 were injured. 2 of the youngest victims were only 14. At the time, this was the biggest attack to happen in Norway since World War II. Now, you're probably wondering how the police didn't get there sooner. It had gone on for an hour and a half. So they knew about the shooting really early on. Apparently, law enforcement didn't have access to a helicopter or any quicker means to getting to the kids. So they just had to make the long journey there. Now, the shooter Anders himself had actually called the police to surrender twice during the shooting. But between the calls, he just kept shooting all the kids. Luckily, there were a lot of campers around the area who actually ended up saving 150 kids altogether. These campers were heroes. They were going back and forth to the island, trying to get kids out of the water, saving them from drowning, and doing their best to get everyone they possibly could to safety. Similar to all those kids that hid in the cabin, when the police did show up, every child on the island was terrified. They weren't sure if they were real or not, or if they could trust them. The kids apparently begged the police to just drop their guns. The police then detained Anders, and the world would learn of the horrific events of that day. They then psychologically examined Anders Anders. They determined that he had paranoid schizophrenia and that he was psychotic during this shooting. He was said to be criminally insane. This next bit kind of confuses me. A year later, they apparently re-examined him, and it was determined that he was actually sane, and so the courts ruled him as sane. This next part will probably infuriate you as much as it did me. Anders was only given 21 years in jail. In my opinion, not enough. This man killed 77 people, 69 of them being children, over politics. The entire event was simply politically motivated. It was also said that he joined a neo-Nazi group in prison. I just pray somehow he never gets out. He doesn't deserve to. Sending all my condolences to the families, and thanks for watching.
Imagine finding someone who's not only living in your house, but also planning to perform surgery on you. There has been so many terrifying cases of frogging, and if you don't know what frogging is, it's the act of an intruder living inside your home. Lifetime is coming out with a series that is filled with cases of frogging, which I totally recommend that you guys watch, but I want to start with a frogging case that gives me the absolute chills. This is called The Secret Surgeon. So this newlywed couple, James and Brittany Campbell, decided to move with their 2 kids to Honolulu, Hawaii after getting married in Vegas. They moved to the suburbs together and are thrilled to be starting their new lives. It's super important to note that above the bathroom at their new house, there was a crawl space attic. Well, June of 2019 is when it all began. Brittany liked to watch makeup tutorials on YouTube as she would get ready and do her makeup and hair in the morning. And while she was doing this one day, she heard the front door slam just out of nowhere. And all throughout that evening, she continued to hear the door open and close. She had asked James if he had locked the door, and he had said yes, but she still made him go downstairs and check, and he found the door unlocked. This caused a bit of an argument between the newlyweds, and she found herself starting to get more and more obsessive about checking the locks and making sure everything was safe at night. She said that she felt like she was going crazy, and James was pretty dismissive about the whole thing. Oh, James. But Brittany was fixated on this. Well, eventually one day while James was playing the piano at the house, he sees a shadow of a person walk past him. But James was like, maybe this is just someone being nosy outside. Well, a few days later, James was at home with the kids, and he noticed that there was a strange message for him left on his desktop calendar, which stated, "Do as I did, choose a home, clean it, set up all devices." This story gets way scarier. Go to the next part. Okay, so back to one of the creepiest stories about frogging I have ever heard of. So James saw this really strange rehabilitation message on his calendar, but he thought it was just a strange way that Brittany was trying to tell him that he needed to tidy up. Well, 3 weeks later, James was finally convinced. They were all going to the movies as a family, and there was one particular blanket that they liked to use to snuggle up to watch movies, and none of them could find it. They searched the house up and down. It was usually on the couch. The kids were helping. No one could find it. And the second that they returned home from that movie, they found that blanket folded up perfectly, sitting on the couch. And that's when James knew something was wrong. Brittany was like, finally, she was feeling validated. And soon after that, in the middle of the night, Brittany noticed that her webcam was on, and she thought that that was strange, but she just got up and turned it off. So in September of 2019, they decided to go back and visit their family on the mainland, and they decided to take an earlier than planned flight home. And when they pulled up back to the house, they noticed that James's road bike was sitting in the driveway, and he was like, I didn't leave that out there. So they knew something was totally off, and the second that they opened their garage door, they noticed that everything was trashed. James was scared for his family's safety, so he went ahead and grabbed a sledgehammer and headed to the front door of the house. James tried to open his front door, but was met with some resistance. And then after providing a little bit of extra force with opening the door, he was met eye to eye with a man inside of his home. And this man was, no joke, plotting their surgery. If you guys want to hear more about this story, tune into Frogging, Hide Her in My House on Lifetime on June 18th, 10, 9 Central. This is the last part to the secret surgeon, who was living in a family's home without them knowing. James is eventually able to pull the intruder onto his front lawn. He notices that he's wearing his clothes, and the intruder is very calm but trying to explain that this is his house. James is just trying to rationalize this. Maybe he's homeless, maybe he's on drugs. He's trying to call the police without causing a huge scene and just keep the man calm. Well, Brittany immediately runs into the home to go check on the cat. And on her way in, the man yells at her saying, "Don't worry, I've been taking care of your cat." And when she walks inside the house, she notices that all of her husband's instruments are out and everything looks like it's been taken inventory of. The cat was in a crate, it had no water, and it looked like he had been trying to feed the cat dried apricots. And a weird thing is that he kept the boys' room very pristine. That was the only clean room in the house. And their bedroom had a set of knives laid out on a towel. The weirdest part was that there was an old computer that they didn't use anymore set out on the bed. On it was a medical manifesto written by the intruder called "The Omnivore Trials of Rehabilitation for Rat-Like People." And the journal itself had very intimate details about each family member. This is whenever they knew that he had in fact been stalking them for quite a while in their home. Looking at the journal and his prior search histories on the laptop, he had a whole outline on what he was going to do, how he was going to drug the family members. He had a serum sitting in the kitchen that was labeled "to use on the omnivores." He referred to the family as being subhuman or a different species. Some of his Google searches included where to buy medical tables, how to perform surgeries at home, videos on how to surgically remove an arm. And he had left Brittany his own makeup tutorial on her laptop. That was why her webcam was on. He was arrested, put in jail, but then was granted supervised release. He then burglarized a Buddhist temple and was sent back to jail. He ended up killing his cellmate. I mean, this case is just way too much of a close call for me, and there are so many other terrifying cases of frogging.
We need to talk about the smiling dog. The smiling dog is a demonic creature that looks like a dog but has human teeth. Photos of this creature were sent to people all over the world. And once a photo was seen, the smile dog would enter the viewer's dreams. And in the dream, you'll feel a need to ask the creature one question. What do you want? Then the smile dog will always reply with "spread the word." After that, you'll have 3 days to grant the smile dog's wishes. And if you don't send any videos or photos of the smile dog to someone else, the photo you received will start to deform, showing you a much more disturbing version of the smile dog that some people think is its true form. Some people have even said the smile dog's nightmares are so bad that its victims avoid sleeping altogether, weakening their mind and making them even more vulnerable till the smile dog comes out of their dreams and into their reality to further torment them. So send this video to someone else to spread the word of the smile dog.